Have you ever stood in the grocery store, staring at a pile of orange-skinned vegetables, and wondered if the label was lying to you? One bin says, yams. Another says, sweet potatoes. They look almost identical. They're stacked side by side. And yet somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet question forms. Are these actually the same thing, or have we all been fooled for decades? This confusion isn't just yours. It's shared by millions of shoppers, cooks, and families who have grown up using the words yam and sweet potato interchangeably without ever stopping to question it. And that's exactly why this story matters. Because once you dig into it, you realize this mix-up isn't a small mistake. It's a misunderstanding shaped by history, agriculture, marketing, and culture. Let's begin with the vegetable most people think they know. Sweet potatoes are one of the most familiar foods in the world. They show up on dinner plates year-round, but especially during holidays, baked until soft, mashed with butter, or topped with sugar and marshmallows. Botanically speaking, sweet potatoes are root vegetables from the morning glory family, which is already a surprise to many people. The same plant family that produces decorative flowers also produces this hearty, underground food crop. Sweet potatoes originated thousands of years ago in Central and South America, long before modern nations or grocery stores existed. Indigenous cultures cultivated them carefully, selecting varieties for flavor, texture, and storage. Over time, explorers and traders carried sweet potatoes across oceans, spreading them into Asia, Africa, and eventually Europe. Their adaptability helped them thrive in many climates, making them one of the world's most successful crops. Sweet potatoes also come in far more varieties than most people realize. Some have bright orange flesh, others are pale yellow, white, or deep purple. Their skins can be coppery, reddish, or light tan. The sweetness can vary widely too. Some varieties are mildly sweet and almost nutty, while others caramelize intensely when cooked. This diversity is part of what made sweet potatoes so valuable historically. They weren't just food. They were reliable food. They stored well, grew underground where they were protected from some pests, and provided steady nutrition in difficult conditions. That reliability helped sweet potatoes become a staple across cultures, even though each region prepared them differently. Now let's shift to yams, because this is where the story takes a sharp turn. True yams are not sweet potatoes at all. They belong to an entirely different plant family called Dioscorea. In fact, botanically speaking, yams are more closely related to grasses and lilies than to sweet potatoes. That alone tells you how deep the difference really is. Yams originated primarily in Africa and parts of Asia, where they have been cultivated for thousands of years as a primary source of calories. In many regions, yams are not a side dish or a seasonal food. They are survival food. They are planted, harvested, stored, and celebrated with seriousness and respect. Physically, yams look very different from sweet potatoes once you know what to look for. True yams can grow enormous, sometimes stretching several feet long and weighing more than a bowling ball. Their skin is rough, thick, and bark-like, almost resembling tree bark rather than a vegetable peel. Inside, the flesh is usually white, off-white, or purple, and much drier than that of sweet potatoes. Yams are not naturally sweet. Their flavor is starchy and neutral, closer to a regular potato or even a chestnut. Because of this, they're rarely used in desserts. Instead, they're treated as a foundation food, something that anchors a meal rather than flavors it. So if sweet potatoes and yams are this different, why has the confusion lasted so long? The answer lies in history, specifically American agricultural history. In the United States, sweet potatoes were already being grown in multiple varieties by the time African slaves were brought to the country. Many enslaved Africans were familiar with true yams from their homelands. When they encountered softer, orange-fleshed sweet potatoes, the texture reminded them of the yams they knew back home. They began calling these sweet potatoes yams, as a way to distinguish them from firmer, pale-fleshed sweet potatoes. The name stuck, not because it was scientifically accurate, but because it made sense culturally and practically at the time. As agriculture became more commercialized, farmers and sellers leaned into this distinction. Labeling softer sweet potatoes as yams helped them stand out in markets. It suggested richness, softness, and tradition. Over time, grocery stores adopted the language without correcting it. Even today, in many American supermarkets, the vegetables labeled yams are almost always sweet potatoes. In fact, US regulations require that if a sweet potato is labeled as a yam, it must also be labeled as a sweet potato somewhere on the package. That small detail reveals just how officially recognized the confusion has become. This is also why many people living in the United States have never actually seen a true yam. Real yams are rarely sold in standard grocery stores. When they are available, they're usually found in international markets, especially African, Caribbean, or Asian specialty shops. They look unfamiliar, intimidating even. Their skin is tough. Their size is dramatic. And they require more preparation. Unlike sweet potatoes, which can be scrubbed and tossed into the oven, yams almost always need to be peeled, cooked thoroughly, and handled with intention. Texture is another major dividing line between these two foods. When cooked, sweet potatoes become soft, moist, and creamy. Orange-fleshed varieties, in particular, break down easily, which is why they're perfect for mashing, baking, and blending into soups or desserts. That creaminess is also why sweet potatoes pair so well with butter, spices, and sugars. They absorb flavors easily and transform in texture depending on how they're cooked. Roast them, and they caramelize. Mash them, and they smooth out. Fry them, and they crisp beautifully. Yams behave very differently. Even after long cooking, yams tend to remain firm and dry. This isn't a flaw. It's a feature. That dryness makes them ideal for slicing, boiling, frying, or pounding into dense, dough-like textures. In many African cuisines, yams are boiled and then pounded into a smooth, elastic consistency that's eaten with soups and stews. Their neutral flavor allows them to carry sauces and spices without overpowering them. Where sweet potatoes often take center stage, yams often play a supporting role, providing structure and substance to a meal. Nutritionally, both vegetables are valuable, but they offer different strengths. Sweet potatoes are especially rich in beta-carotene, which the body converts into vitamin A. This nutrient supports vision, immune function, and skin health. Sweet potatoes also contain fiber, vitamin C, potassium, and antioxidants, particularly in orange and purple varieties. Their nutritional profile is one of the reasons they're often recommended in health-focused diets. Yams, on the other hand, are heavier in complex carbohydrates, making them an excellent energy source. They're filling, slow digesting, and rich in fiber. Yams also contain potassium and B vitamins that support metabolism and muscle function. In regions where yams are a staple, they provide the caloric backbone of daily life, much like rice or wheat does elsewhere. Both foods nourish the body, but they do so in slightly different ways, reflecting the environments and cultures that shape their use. Culturally, the contrast between yams and sweet potatoes becomes even clearer. In many African societies, yams are deeply symbolic. They represent strength, survival, and continuity. Some communities hold annual yam festivals to mark the harvest, celebrating not just food, but life itself. The success of the yam crop can mean the difference between abundance and hardship. That weight gives yams a cultural importance that goes far beyond taste. Sweet potatoes carry a different kind of cultural meaning. They've become comfort food. They're associated with home cooking, holidays, and creativity in the kitchen. From fries to pies, casseroles to chips, sweet potatoes have been reinvented endlessly. Their flexibility has allowed them to cross cultural boundaries and fit into countless cuisines. They're familiar, approachable, and endlessly adaptable. Even underground, these plants tell different stories. Sweet potatoes are true roots. They store nutrients directly in the root itself, swelling as they grow. Yams are tubers that grow from underground stems. This difference affects their shape, size, and growth patterns. It's another reminder that despite looking similar on the surface, these plants are not closely related at all. So how do you tell them apart the next time you're shopping? It's simpler than you might think. If the vegetable has smooth skin, orange flesh, and a sweet taste when cooked, it's a sweet potato, regardless of what the label says. If it's massive, rough-skinned, and starchy, with white or purple flesh, you're likely looking at a true yam. Understanding this doesn't just make you sound informed. It helps you choose the right ingredient for the right dish and appreciate the food for what it really is. In the end, the yam versus sweet potato debate isn't about which one is better. It's about clarity. Both foods have fed civilizations, shaped traditions, and earned their place on our plates. They simply deserve to be called by their proper names. Once you know the difference, you can't unsee it. And suddenly, something as ordinary as a root vegetable becomes a story of migration, adaptation, and human creativity. The next time a recipe, a label, or a family tradition brings up yams or sweet potatoes, you'll know exactly what you're working with. And that little bit of knowledge makes everyday food feel more meaningful. Thanks for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, drop them in the comments. We'd love to explore them with you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories hidden inside the simplest things.